and today he will talk about LLMs and free open source. So Daniele, thank you for coming, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Stefano. So let's start with a hard truth, which is that the landscape has changed. The landscape has changed also in our communities. I am speaking on the perspective of a free software project maintainer, because since LLMs entered the stage, there are not only people in our communities, but also machines somehow. I believe this is a massive shift that can have big consequences, and so we have to talk about this. I don't have many answers. If you are waiting for answers from me, I don't have many. I will bring some examples, and I think we should talk with each other and find the answers together. What does it mean that something has happened since the LLMs entered the stage? Basically, the barrier of entry has lowered so much that is partly gone. What used to be issues, so people asking a project to build something for them, to change your project to address also my need, nowadays mostly has converted to non-developers bringing forward code, and code that they did not write because they don't have the competencies to do so. So code that they asked an LLM to write, and then in the most fortunate scenarios, the people are bringing the code forward. In other cases, they are also asking the software agent to just open the PR for them, and yeah, you get something that is completely written by a machine. The barrier of entry for writing code has gone, and this is good for the end users because thanks to the freedoms of free software, they can adapt the software on their end to do something more for them, so that they are happy, and they usually want to propose this for the general public because this change is useful for me. I want it to be available also for other people. So this is very well in line with what a free software project is all about. On the maintainer side, things are a bit different because the barrier of entry of coders writing code, so software developers that know what software development means, also means that you can have an interaction on another level with them. So a software developer will probably understand if you say, your code contribution is great, but we cannot add it to the code base because technical reasons. Whereas if you do this kind of, try to do this kind of discourse with someone who is not a software developer, they will probably just stare at you, virtually of course, and say, but it works, why don't you want it? It works, it should be good. So it's really making harder to refuse code contribution because of this. Really, there is a mismatch on the communication that can happen between maintainers and non-software developers. By the way, there is also a massive issue of spam contributions that come or spam issues that are open, but I'm not talking about this today. I really want to focus on people that are willing to contribute and are using new means of doing so. And the code that you receive is problematic. Well, sometimes it's, let's say nowadays it's harder for this to happen, but it used to be really bad also on the surface. So something that you can reject straight away because it was clearly wrong, or not compiling even, etc. Nowadays, and with nowadays, I mean from week to week or from day to day, LLMs are getting better on writing working code. And I even think that also in software coding, we are probably nearing what is called the superhuman ability of machine learning, which doesn't mean that they are better than us. I've learned the definition in the medical field when they use this for the diagnosis from software imaging. And so a superhuman detection algorithm is defined so when it performs better than the average of humans on a task. So to this end, I think that LLMs for very specific problems in very specific fields, in very specific programming languages, can probably write code that is better than what I would write, for sure. And also, probably in this case, the local optimum can be reached through a machine. The problem is that a local optimum probably is not enough because it doesn't take into account the whole code base, so the code practices that you have in your project. And of course, they cannot contain the logic of the roadmap that you have in mind. So maybe some feature is very great and the code is very well written, but still, that is not the direction you want your project to go. And so you cannot, or you don't want to get this contribution in the code base. And again, this is hard to explain to someone that is not a developer. And also, it makes harder for the maintainers to review the contribution, because really, sometimes also the dirty part, the bugs that are introduced can come so deep in the stack or in the function calls or in the code base that you really have a hard time finding the problem. Maybe sometimes you feel that something is not right, but it's really hard to identify it. And to this, there is also something that in a free software project you should care a lot. And this is also true for corporate projects, so for proprietary software. What you are getting is code that is generated by something, and you don't really know which license you can attach it to. Maybe you have lawyers that tell you that this is fine. In free software projects, usually you don't have lawyers at hand to ask questions. Some LLMs have in the terms of service that you are free to use the code that they generate. But still, I believe this is a big ticking bomb that you get into your code base if you accept some code that is written and you don't know the provenance of it. This is legacy code that might happen to become problematic in a few years, maybe. And if the contribution was made by someone that was maybe not even a coder and it was just a flyby contribution because there was this nice feature that they wanted to add, and then basically they disappear, what do you do? So this is really something you have to take into account when you decide to accept a code contribution that is clearly written by a machine. Of course, the committer is taking the responsibility. So to this end, you can say, I don't care, but I invite you to care still. Don't get me wrong. I think LLMs can help and are helping me as a maintainer of a free and open source project in doing more with less time. For instance, in turning a change log from a Git log to a release announcement on the blog. You just have to remind the LLM to not use emojis, because otherwise they will spot that it's written by an LLM. And also, if you're generating images, take care of typos, because this is also something that usually happens. But knowing the limitations, this is something that is really something that can help and is helping me or us in our project. Another aspect where LLMs excel, in my opinion, is if you have a project that deals with, in our case, it's an Android application, so you have to deal with multiple versions of Android. And if you go to the official documents by Google, they address the very last version. If you go to Stack Overflow, they address the version of 20 years ago. And you are kind of in the middle. And to this end, asking an LLM, I have this version, I want the compatibility with this and this and this platform, they can usually find out a good strategy to deal with that. But still, it's not delegating writing code, is mostly trying to use them where they excel, which is dealing with massive amount of knowledge, in my opinion. Someone might say, well, it's a good thing to use LLMs, also maintainers. Why don't you let an LLM review the pull request I said before? So people are writing PRs with LLMs, just do the code review with LLMs so you don't have the overhead of doing it. Well, to me, and I think to many of people in this room, at least the people I know I think they share my view on this. A free software project is more than its source code. It's more about the community of the free software project itself. And I don't think that putting machines that are talking to each other in our community is going to benefit our community in the end. Machines are there. They are already part of our communities. Our communities are, the humans in our communities are more diluted than ever because we have this presence. And we have to deal with it. But I don't think that creating a dialogue between machines is the right solution to this. Because we want to have trust and maintainability also in our communities. And how do we do it? It's up to debate. And then, of course, there is also the issue of scaring away potential new contributors because of the things I've said before. So if I come with the very best intention to your project and do some code contribution for you, or I ask an LLM to do some code contribution for you, and it's refused, I might have been a potential contributors in the future, but you scared me away. So how do we get to talk with the people and let them be part of our community? This is an example in the Mesa project, which is a very big project. It's graphic card stuff for those who don't know, so it's very complicated. Let's put it this way. And somebody said, okay, I had this LLM. You will get the slides and you can also read it, but I will summarize it for you. This user said, okay, I've had this problem and I solved it. I see a benefit, so the performance are increasing, but I have no idea of what to do with it because I'm not a developer. This was not even a pull request, it was a request for comment. This is the code that the LLM wrote. Do something with it. To which the maintainer answered, okay, the correct way to approach this is that we help you to understand what you are proposing to do. And once you understand what you want to do, then you can make the PR and we will evaluate it and we will eventually merge it. To which the user answered, no, I don't care. I have a working change that works well for me because it brings me benefit. And that's enough for me. If I should maintain downstream changes on my local machine for my own sake, I will do so. This is not a big deal. Maybe you should add to your contribution guide that you don't want AI-made contributions, because then it's clear for everybody and they will not take the time and effort to propose changes made this way, which eventually was done. So they changed their contribution guideline, stating something like what I summarized. I don't know if this is the right answer to the problem, but it's an answer. I think it's up to us in gatherings like this to work together and think together and exchange our opinions to each other in order to find how we want to address this. So thank you. This was my thought-provoking, hopefully, talk. And I'm sorry I don't have much answers, but at least let's talk about how to find answers together. Thank you.
So we have still 30 seconds for one quick question or comment if someone wants to share it. It seems